Hello everybody, it looks like we're back to normal here on the Israel Brief, back in studio. I missed you for the last 2 days, and if you are joining me for the first time, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, where we take a look at those big stories making the headlines in Israel. Of course, they are the stories you're never going to see in the media in your country, and we do it every Monday to Thursday. This being a Thursday means that we're going to take a look at your mensches and your morons, not just of the week, but of the year. Now, to our regular viewer, Charles, you can hear our neighborhood dog. He understood that you missed him and he wanted to get in on the action as well. So here he is in the background saying a special hello to you, Charles. And I want to say a special hello to Natalie in Montreal. Natalie, it was such a pleasure to meet you in Canada, and thank you so much for the beautiful gifts that you gave me. I wore those beautiful earrings that you made for me on Rosh Hashanah with pride. So thank you. I mean, we're all part of the Israel Brief community or family, and every single one of you is incredibly special to me. It is day 720. We are just mere days away from the second anniversary of the 7th of October, a day that will live forever in infamy, a day that President Trump, and more about his comments at the UN General Assembly a little later in the show, said was one of the worst days of humanity. It was a day where over 1,200 people were slaughtered by Hamas and other jihadi groups, and over 250 people taken hostage, of which we still have 48 languishing in hell in Gaza. We want them all home now. As many of you know, countries around the world are rushing to recognize a non-existent Palestinian state. And what is really worrying is that very few, if any of them, have conditioned it on the immediate release of our hostages. So let's take a look at the top stories, and we go to a story that happened yesterday on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and that was a drone that was launched by the Houthis, the Iranian-backed terror group in Yemen, towards the southernmost city of Eilat. Now, this drone impacted very close to a hotel and a popular shopping area, and about 20 people were injured, at least 2 of them seriously. Most of the injuries came from shrapnel. Now, of course, we want to know why this happened. Why was the drone able to impact? So what we do know is that the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, fired 2 Iron Dome missiles, but it is believed that the drone was flying too low for the interception to be effective. Meanwhile, the Israeli Air Force is investigating why it was picked up too late and why they weren't able to scramble a fighter jet. Meanwhile, Israel's Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, has vowed very harsh reprisals against the Houthis. During the course of this week, the United Nations General Assembly, which I, as a commentator and journalist, like to call my annual Super Bowl, because this is where we look at what world leaders are saying on the international stage, is taking place at UN headquarters in New York. Well, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has been denied the visas needed to enter the US, so he gave his address via video conference wearing a key. Now, the key is symbolic of the fact that Palestinians seek to return, according to their narrative, to Israel and force Jews out of their homes, and they say the key is symbolic of them returning. The Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs takes huge issue at this, at them being allowed to wear this key, because it actually calls for the eradication of Israel. I wonder how many of those states that are falling over themselves to recognize a Palestinian state actually took cognizance of the fact that Abbas was wearing that key. Meanwhile, amongst the world leaders to speak was the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and amongst the many things he said, I think in his nearly hour-long speech, President Trump took aim at the countries recognizing a Palestinian state, saying that this is the greatest reward for Hamas and their acts of terror. He referred to the 7th of October as one of the worst days in humanity. And he said that peace can only come with the immediate release of the hostages, and that everybody who believes in peace should be calling for the immediate release of the hostages. He also spoke about the fact that his administration is working on a plan to end the war in Gaza and free the hostages, and that the hostages being free has to be the main priority. Now, other countries like France, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and various others have taken to the stage to recognize a Palestinian state. And if you missed my analysis, please watch Monday's edition of the Israel Brief, where I speak a little bit more about what this recognition actually means on the ground. But the real surprise yesterday came from the president of Indonesia. Now, this cannot be taken lightly because Indonesia is the world's most populated Muslim majority country. And in his speech, the president spoke about the importance of recognizing Israel's existence, Israel's right and need for security, and he ended his speech by saying shalom. This cannot be taken lightly. This is a massive, massive gesture from Indonesia to Israel, and then you can be sure that we are watching with great, great gratitude and acceptance. Meanwhile, countries who are not going to recognize a Palestinian state just yet are countries like Japan, Singapore, Germany, and Italy, who have all said the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinians must renounce terror, the hostages must be released, and Israel's right to security must be recognized. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu departed for New York this morning along with his wife and delegation, where he will address the UNGA a little later, either today or tomorrow, and we are expecting the Prime Minister to take aim at those countries who he says have betrayed Israel by recognizing a Palestinian state. Now, on the subject of the Palestinians, President Trump met with Arab leaders on the sidelines of the UN yesterday. He presented his plan for the day after to them. What is also interesting is that he met with French President Macron, who presented his own 21-point plan to President Trump and said that he's trying to convince America to recognize a Palestinian state, to which President Trump responded, "I am on the side of Israel. I have always been on the side of Israel all my life." And I do have to say that Macron looked like an admonished schoolboy sitting next to the US president. Meanwhile, President Trump has assured the Arab leaders that he will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank or Judea and Samaria. Many believe that Israel, now backed into a corner, could come out with a harsh response by annexing the whole of Judea and Samaria or the West Bank as part of Israel proper. President Trump says he will not allow this to happen, and France as well as Arab leaders have said if this happens, that is a red line and could end the Abraham Accords. Now, speaking of the Abraham Accords, South Yemen, the separatists have declared that they would be very keen to join the Abraham Accords. Isn't that incredible? And that they support a two-state solution. But back to the issue of annexation, and Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, speaking to an Italian publication, has said that Israel has put on the table plans to possibly annex only the Israeli-controlled areas of Judea and Samaria or the West Bank, that we have absolutely no aims to annex the whole area because we do not want to govern the Palestinians. And for people who might not be aware, because everything is seen as like a pejorative, and the issue of the West Bank or Judea and Samaria, which is disputed territory, is quite complicated. You have got an area that is controlled exclusively by Israel, another area that is exclusively controlled by the Palestinians, and one that is controlled by both Israelis and Palestinians. So what we could see is Israel annex the Israeli-controlled areas. And finally, we go to Greta. Yeah, I know we are all tired of the doomsday goblin, but she is aboard the Sumud Flotilla along with some of her cohorts from around the world, and they accused Israel of attacking them just off the coast of Greece with drones and hacking into their system and playing non-stop ABBA songs. Very creative, whoever did that. But Israel has not confirmed, and it cannot be verified, that Israel launched any kind of drone attack. That would have been in Greek waters anyway. However, both Spain and Italy have dispatched naval vessels. Italy have said that in no way do they want to engage in any kind of conflict with their ally Israel. However, they just want to make sure that their Italian civilians that are on board the Sumud are kept safe. Spain has said that the sole reason for their dispatching of a naval vessel is to perform rescue if needed. Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has warned the Sumud Flotilla that it will have to intercept them, although they hope not violently. Meanwhile, Italy offered to take the aid that the Sumud Flotilla have said is allegedly on board. I say this allegedly because I don't think that there's any humanitarian aid on board. I think that this is purely performative. But they have said that they are happy to take that aid and deliver it to Gaza themselves. That echoes an offer by Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs that said that the ship can offload in Ashkelon and Israel will transport any humanitarian aid. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, called the flotilla gratuitous, dangerous, irresponsible, not worth risking one's life when they could deliver aid peacefully and successfully. So there is that. So guys, those are your top stories. And let's take a look at the audience question before I announce your mentions and your morons of the year. And the question comes from Merrick in London, who says, is it true that Starmer's announcement violates international laws? I think that Merrick is speaking about the announcement by Prime Minister Keir Starmer to recognize a Palestinian state. And the one thing that's very interesting about Keir Starmer is that he uses international law to justify all his decisions. He is a human rights lawyer, and we've heard him justify or use international law to justify allowing in many migrants and various other issues. But he is violating international law. In fact, he is violating the Montevideo Conventions, which lay the parameters for what is required under international law for a state to be formed. Is there a credible government? Is there a civilian population to be governed? Can the government engage with other governments? Now, we know that Hamas still control the Gaza Strip, and that if there had to be elections tomorrow, Hamas would win over Fatah. And given that they are an internationally recognized terrorist organization, they don't meet the criteria. Also, what are the borders? What will the capital be? All of these issues are pertinent to the Montevideo Conventions. And then you get the Oslo Accords. If you recall the Oslo Accords of the 1990s, where it was codified that any permanent solution between Israel and the Palestinians had to be negotiated by the two parties. So effectively, all these states who are recognizing a Palestinian state have violated international law. So guys, that's your question for today, but now is the moment you are all waiting for. So I've aggregated your top morons and your top menschers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in no particular order, and we have had some repeat offenders and some repeat recommendations, is announce your menschers. So the top menschers for the year 5785, that's according to the Hebrew calendar, are His Majesty King Charles, President Trump, Charlie Kirk, Douglas Murray, President Herzog, Gal Gadot, the Mossad for their beeper campaign in Lebanon, and the morons, the top morons for 5785 are, no shocker here because he popped up on nearly everybody's list, David Lammy, the former foreign secretary for the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, no surprises, Greta Thunberg, Kanye West, and all the celebrities who have signed boycott agreements or letters of boycotting Israel and attacked Israel while staying silent about the hostages. So guys, there you have it, as recommended and voted for by you. So that's it from me for this week. I'll join you guys again on Monday with the Monday edition of the Israel Brief. In the meantime, please don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. Our Facebook page is at Lottel's site. We're on Substack at Raleen Marks, Instagram at Raleen_Marks, LinkedIn at Raleen Marks, X at Lay of the Land 5. Guys, God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. And please don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe. God bless you all. Mwah. See you again next week. Bye for now.